Ready?
Ready.
I'm not. Hi, I'm Reagan.
And I'm Bailey, and you're listening to
Graveyard Gossip. So, Bailey, do you want to tell them what this is all about?
So, we, over the course of this series, are going to talk about murder, true crime, paranormal activity, like the whole 9 yards. But what do you want to talk about today?
I think I want to talk about some true crime today.
Okay.
So, I'm going to talk about Nanny Doss.
Okay.
She's a woman serial killer
Badass.
from Blue Mountain, Alabama.
Mm.
She was one of 5 kids, so big family.
Okay.
Her parents were Lou and James Hazel.
Mm-hmm.
Her mom was great, very sweet. The town loved her, kids loved her. But James, on the other hand, her husband, was
Piece of shit, maybe?
a piece of shit. Yeah.
Okay.
He was very controlling, super abusive, and was also an alcoholic. So one day Lou was just like, okay, like I need to get out of here and get some space. So she went to take a train with her kids down to southern Alabama to go visit some of her family.
Okay.
So during this trip, I'm not sure if it was on the way there or on the way back, but I guess there was a big tree on the train tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the conductor saw it, he slammed on the brakes, I guess, and caused Nanny to actually fly forward, and she ended up hitting her head on one of the metal seats right in front of her. Yeah, so it caused a lot of issues for her. I mean, clearly that's a horrific head injury at only 7.
Yeah.
So frontal lobe fucked up from the beginning. And she even states, like, later on, when she, because, spoiler alert, she's the killer. She even states later on that she blames this head injury for a lot of her problems.
Mm-hmm.
So it caused major depression, severe headaches, and even occasional blackouts sometimes. And it's not exactly known why her parents didn't give her medical treatment. I think James didn't really want people to know that he was hitting them.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't want the doctor to see the bruises and all that stuff. But then again, in the early 1900s, people didn't really care if you beat your kids.
Yeah.
So I'm really not entirely sure. Yeah, I don't know if it was money or what. But it was clearly a severe enough head injury. So not only did he, like, not take her to the hospital, he just didn't give a fuck about his kids at all, especially their how they were in school, because he ended up taking them out of school just to have them do farm chores, house chores, and thought it was way more important than any type of academic achievement.
He just wanted more control.
Yeah, exactly. So despite having a very poor academic performance, Nanny really enjoyed reading and writing romance novels and magazines.
Me too, girl.
I really think it was kind of like a way for her to, like, get away and focus on this other form of reality, to try to get away from the rough childhood that she was having. But James kind of interfered a lot with that dream of hers, because he obviously was a controlling dickhead, but he wouldn't allow his daughters to wear makeup, dresses, express their femininity at all in any type of way. They weren't allowed to attend dances or any type of social settings, all because he was worried that they were going to, quote, be molested or assaulted by other men.
Brother, you're going to do that at home.
Exactly. So it sadly didn't prevent any of that from happening, because it's said that Nanny and her sisters were both molested numerous times by family members.
You just want to share.
I don't think so. And it's never said, like, if he did abuse them in that way, but there are signs. So I'm just going to leave it at that. So I don't want to dive into that part. But anyways, so when Nanny was 16, I believe, she was able to get a job, which is kind of surprising because he wanted her to work on the farm all the time. But it was at a local linen company. And she ends up meeting her first husband, Charlie, who's 17 at the time.
Him.
And you would think that with her dad being so controlling and like so anal about other men that he wouldn't allow this relationship to happen, but he does, and for some weird fucking reason is like, yeah, like it's great, like get married, whatever. So, but I kind of think it was like James trying to pass off the responsibility, and because it was in the early 1900s, so like again, financial problems.
Yeah.
So I think it was kind of his way of like, it's not another mouth to feed type thing. So yeah, just a few months later, Charlie and Nanny get married. They're only 16 and 17. Again, just gonna leave it at that. So right after the wedding, Nanny finds out that her mother-in-law is actually going to be staying with them. So this fantasy that she's created in her head of like, oh, I'm 16, I'm gonna fall in love, and I'm gonna be with this guy, we're gonna be alone. Like she was like ready to deep dive into her romantic life, especially because she's reading all this stuff all the time and is like ready. So yeah, Nanny's mother-in-law ends up being a raging bitch and was almost just as bad as her father, James.
That figures.
Yeah, and it really sucks because you would think that like this girl is, and like I always say it, and I know other podcasters say it, but like I always say feel bad for the kid, not the adult, because like there were so many things that she could have like had, you know. So yeah, Nanny and her mother-in-law just did not get along, and it caused a whole bunch of conflict between her and Charlie. But they did end up having 4 kids together, so
Could have been too bad.
Yeah,
they found some quiet time.
Yeah. So due to all the conflict between Nanny and her mother-in-law, and Charlie was away on business a lot, and it was suspected that he cheated on Nanny
Figures
on these business trips. So like all these conflicts were happening, so she turned to alcohol and cigarettes and started those addictions. And it kind of turned her into like a really shit of a mother to her other kids besides her oldest daughter, Melvina. For some reason, she absolutely adored her and her other kids. She was just like whatever. Yeah, so I don't know why Nanny was so obsessed with Melvina, and part of me kind of thinks it's just because like she's the oldest daughter.
You have a different connection with your oldest.
Yeah. But with Charlie on business a lot and this conflict that she's having with her mother-in-law, she kind of started to feel like she was a single mom.
Okay.
And really just couldn't handle all the kids. So while coming back from a business trip, Charlie discovers that 2 of his children have mysteriously died.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So he comes back and he's like, what the hell? Like, what's going on? And she's like, oh, they just died from like food poisoning. And he's like, well, you didn't think to like tell me? And she's like, oh, well, like you were coming home anyways.
Okay.
Yeah. So Charlie's like, okay, like that's super fucking weird. And some random ass person, I literally went like scouring the internet trying to figure out who said what exactly. But somebody came up to him and was like, hey, you need to be careful when you're eating her dinner. So Charlie's like, what the fuck? Like,
it
okay.
was his child's ghost telling him,
probably.
Daddy, don't eat it.
Yeah. So, it clearly freaked Charlie out. And he's like, okay, like, I need some space. Like, her and I aren't getting along anyway, so I'll try to use that, like, as an excuse. Like, hey, let's just take a break for a little bit. So, he takes his oldest daughter, Melvina, with him, and they go on a trip for a couple months. So, who's left with Nanny is her mother-in-law, and then their newborn, I believe.
Oh my gosh.
But I'm like, you leave them, but clearly it's not bad enough to where you leave.
The fucking newborn that can't
Yeah.
fend for
And your
itself.
mom that you're so latched onto.
Eh.
Like, like you leave both of them and you were so adamant about her living with y'all and whatever. So, who knows? But because he left his fucking mom, she ends up dying too.
While him and Melvina
Mysteriously.
are on this trip.
Mhm.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Don't eat the soup, kids.
So, yeah, his mom ends up passing away, and Charlie finds out. I guess she had it in her heart to tell him, hey, your mom died. And nobody suspected anything because she was old. So they're like, oh, it's just old age.
Natural causes.
Yeah, no biggie. So Charlie obviously comes back, and he's like, hey, like, this isn't working between you and I anymore. I think we should just get a divorce. Oh, by the way, this is my girlfriend. We're happier. So yeah. So not only did he come back saying, hey, I'm going to have, like, we're going to get a divorce, but he also was like, oh, hey, by the way, this is my mistress. Yeah, so Nanny's going through it. Well, clearly. So they divorce, and Nanny takes the oldest daughter and the newborn back home. The newborn's still alive.
Yeah.
Thankfully. Somehow. So she goes back to her parents' house.
Okay.
Which is also kind of weird because it's like you were abused for so long, so why would you want to put
Why would you want to go back and
Yeah.
then possibly put your kids through the same damn thing?
Exactly. But hard times, we don't know how it was in the early 1900s. Do I think it's fucking dumb? Yeah. But anyways, so she ends up working at this local cotton mill to help try to provide for her and the girls and try to help out with bills and whatnot. And just a month or two later, Nanny ends up meeting her second husband through the Lonely Hearts column in the paper or magazine. I don't know which one it was. Paper
That
or
was
magazine.
a thing.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Tinder.
Yeah, but Tinder on paper.
On paper.
So she meets Frank Harrelson.
Okay.
And this is around 1929.
So she's like what, 24 at this point?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
So Nanny's like super excited and she's like, this is my second chance. Like, it's gonna be like my books.
This is it.
This is it.
He gonna love me.
Exactly. Not the case. So he turns out to be extremely fucking abusive and a major alcoholic. So kind of exactly like her dad. But even though he was such this awful fucking person, they were together for 16 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And she was kind of quiet between this time. Like, there's really no reports on what she was doing around this time. We know that, like, her killing stopped.
Yeah.
Thank God. So, yeah. But around that last year of marriage, I think she was kind of starting to get that itch.
You a little itching.
Yeah.
For the bitching.
So, Melvina, remember she moved back with them. So, she is actually pregnant. Ends up having her youngest daughter. She has a son as well. I forgot to mention that. So, she is giving birth to her daughter.
Okay.
Literally in the hospital.
Okay.
And Nanny is there, you know, it's her daughter, whatever. So I'm like, oh, here, Grandma, you want to hold the baby? Sure. Dead. Within 2 seconds of her holding it.
Fucking how?
So, and trigger warning to anybody listening, if you don't like things against babies, this is kind of rough. So, while Nanny's holding the baby, she takes a hairpin or a hat pin. I don't know which one it is. A small, thin needle. Right. You ready? Pokes it into the baby's brain. Through its soft spot. Kills it instantly.
Oh my God.
Nobody suspected a fucking thing. How?
Like, I'm baffled.
Yeah, I know! Like, what the fuck? And so, Melvina's like loopy as fuck. And the drugs back then, crazy.
A little hardcore.
Yeah. And so Melvina's like out of it, but she's like, what the fuck do you mean my baby just died? And her husband's like, I don't know. Like, Nanny was just holding it and it died. And then nobody could give an explanation. So I don't know if the needle was like that thin where you just couldn't really see it, you know? Like, I don't really know what a hat pin or a hairpin looks like. Probably should have looked that up. But I'm like, how would you not check? But I
Just
guess
to see. But I mean, it's the time.
yeah, and babies died a lot back then, so I guess that kind of makes sense. Yeah, so clearly this puts a lot of conflict between her and her husband. So Melvina is like doesn't blame Nanny at all.
Okay.
And which is
But does the husband?
he suspects.
Okay.
So that's where the conflict comes in.
Okay.
And clearly you guys are both young and you just lost a baby together. That's difficult.
Yeah.
And so they were like, okay, like, well, let's separate. Let's do it for the kids, basically, you know. So Melvina goes back to living with just her mom. And so it's her mom and her son, Robert. And a couple months later, this is all within a span of a couple months. A couple months later, obviously besides 16 years, she is like, okay, well, I think I'm ready to get back out there, date around.
Need to find me a stepdaddy.
Yeah. And so she ends up meeting this soldier. And so she's like, okay, benefits.
BAH, we love it.
But for some reason, Nanny didn't approve of him at all.
Okay.
And it created so much tension between the two of them. Like, a massive fight was broken out, screaming at each other, blah, blah, blah. So Melvina's like, okay, I'm going to go hang out with Dad for a couple days. So she leaves and is like, can you watch Robert?
Oh my God.
So Nanny's like, yeah, duh. I'm going to watch him. Like, whatever. Bad idea. Stop letting Nanny watch your fucking kids. Sorry. Anyways, so Nanny obviously fucking agrees. And while Melvina's gone, Robert mysteriously dies of asphyxia. Which at the time, no one really knew the cause of death. They were just like, oh yeah, he got sick and he passed away.
Just stop breathing.
Yeah.
Dead.
No idea.
Done so.
Yeah.
6 feet under.
So they don't know why he died, right?
Okay.
Later on, it's suspected that the cookies were laced with arsenic.
Not the cookies.
Yeah. And I think later on, Nanny says, like, oh, it was an accident. How the fuck do you accidentally put arsenic in cookies?
It's next to the chocolate chips.
Yeah. So, yeah, she says, like, it was an accident or whatever.
Okay.
But if it was an accident, why did she take a $500 life insurance policy out on Robert just a couple months after he died? And that's only like $9,000 in today's time.
Damn.
Yeah. Like I mentioned, this year's it's pretty active for Nanny. So all this is going on, and her husband, Frank, they're still together.
Melvina and Frank?
No, Frank is Nanny's second husband.
Oh, yes.
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 Melvina now is just chilling with her mom, I guess, with no kids. It's really not said what happened to Melvina after Robert. Which I get, honestly. If she moved away, move away. Run very fast.
Run with that military man, babe.
Yeah.
Get away.
So yeah, Frank comes home one night, drunk as fuck.
The second abuser.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. World War II just ended. So he went out with his buddies and drank and celebrated that the war was over, blah, blah, blah. But he wanted to take that celebration home. And tries to rub up on Nanny a little bit. Like, hey, like, let's celebrate together.
Hey,
let's go to the room. Yeah.
Rub it down.
Exactly. And Nanny's like, no, not into it. No, thank you. So Frank pursues. Nanny refuses. and he eventually and allegedly sexually assaulted her.
Mm.
So Nanny wakes up the next morning and she's like, this motherfucker's gonna die. You know, I don't blame her.
At that point, no.
No.
Eugen was coming to you.
Exactly. And so she goes and she digs up finds, I don't fucking know, one of his mason jars full of moonshine.
Okay.
And laces it with poison.
Mm.
And then just waits till he drinks it. So
the anticipation.
Yeah, literally only a couple days goes by and Frank is dead. And again, ruled it out as food poisoning. So
what were they feeding the people back in the day for them to always just rule it out as food poisoning?
And so she's able to collect all of his life insurance money. To not only pay for a new house, but to buy a plot of land in Jacksonville. So now she's got this new life. And she's like, okay, fresh start again.
Living big.
Yeah. Third time's a charm. So she's going to work, hang out with her kids, yada yada.
Are there any kids left?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Melvina and the newborn. I don't know what the newborn's name is. Clearly, they're not a newborn anymore. So she starts reading the Lonely Hearts column again. She's like, let me find me a new man. Okay. I'm ready. So when she's doing this, she meets Artie Lanning, who becomes her third husband. Yeah. And they moved to North Carolina just after a couple months of meeting each other.
Okay.
So she's like, okay, again, third time's charm. It's fine. We got it. It's good. He's going to be great. No, he's not. Major alcoholic and a womanizer. I don't think he abused her, but he was definitely like drunk all the time and cheating on her. So again, this perception of love that she had is completely shot down for a third time.
Yeah. Going to the trash.
So their relationship is really on and off again. Like, Nanny even eventually ends up leaving for a little bit.
She finally left at one point in time.
And then she comes back. It's really not known what she does when she leaves or even where she went. She just dipped out. But then when she came back, she was like playing this like perfect wife, like a doting spouse, you know, like all over him. Here, let me make you a cup of tea type thing. But I guess she was just getting the itch to kill again or something. Or maybe she was running out of money for these weird spontaneous trips. But one day she baked Artie a pie laced with arsenic.
Okay.
And he's dead the next morning. So, people know that he's an alcoholic, that his addiction is so bad. So they were just like, oh, he just drank himself to death and it was a heart attack. After his death, she actually moves in with his family.
Oh.
So his sister and his mother. Even though, whatever. So, like her other victims, Nanny's trying to figure out what she can get out of Artie's death and, you know, what money he's got hiding. It turns out, nothing.
The broke bitch.
She got some of his estate, but his house itself was left to his sister.
Okay.
So, Nanny was like pissed off, obviously. And then this house mysteriously burns down out of nowhere. So she collects the insurance money, wipes her hands, it's done. So after this, she's living with them in another house. And Nanny's like, okay, like I got money from the insurance, whatever, but I need more. And so she makes some dinner for her mother-in-law, who also dies from old age.
What in the hell?
From poisoned dinner. Nanny continues her killing spree, all in the same fashion. She moves in with her sister, who also dies shortly after her arrival, and then goes back to the Lonely Hearts column, and meets her fourth husband, Richard. And she ends up moving to Kansas with him, and is starting to kind of plot how he's gonna die. Watermelon. I was late. I was way too late.
Sorry, trying to hold it in.
So then she tries to start planning Richard's death.
So Richard's husband number 4, he's about to die.
Yeah, when we're like die, but yeah,
you look like a dead possum with your tongue sticking out and everything.
I feel like a dead possum. No possums play possum.
Opossum, duh, that's where it came from. The opossum, they
But they're not really dead.
No, they play dead. That's where it came from.
I'm gonna try that one day. See what happens. So yeah, she's planning Richard's death. And as she's doing that, her mom calls her and she's like, hey, your dad died. So she's like, oh, fuck. Okay, whatever. Her mom's like, I need to come live with you.
Oh,
fuck. Okay. Well, her mom dies.
man, she is just really good at getting rid of her problems. It hit a bitch up.
Oh my gosh. So, and that part doesn't really make sense to me, especially because Lou was so nice to Nanny.
Why would you just all of a sudden kill your mom? Like, she's not a nuisance to you.
No.
But then, does she feel a type of way because Lou never, like, stood up for her whenever her dad was, like, beat bopping her face?
And there's no telling what it was like when Nanny went back to go live with them.
Oh, yeah, with her kids?
Yeah. So there's no telling. Now that her mom's out of the way,
Mm-hmm.
she can continue plotting. So, Richard wasn't abusive, and he wasn't an alcoholic like her other husbands,
Mm-hmm.
but he was cheating on Nanny.
What is up with these
Like
men?
some of the, I really don't know.
Keep it in your pants. Keep it at home.
Like, they marry her so fast, and then either, like, hurt her physically, or they hurt her emotionally. I mean, clearly both. Enough to kill them. So, yeah, but as she's, like, plotting this death, she goes ahead and takes out another life insurance policy on him before she even kills him. Takes it out. I was like, wait a couple days, whatever.
I'll need this later.
Yeah, I'll look through the Lonely Hearts column, but this time I'm gonna look through the Diamond Circle because I'm into older men. So then she wakes up one morning and she's like, "Here, honey, let me make you a cup of coffee. Put some extra sugar in there." Dead Robert. I mean,
Richard.
dead Richard. I mean, Robert's dead too, but Richard's also dead.
They are all dead.
So she's digging through that Lonely Hearts column, and she finds Samuel Doss from Tulsa, Oklahoma. So Samuel was a Nazarene minister.
Okay.
Who really disapproved of her romance novels, which sucks because that was Nanny's way of, like, escaping reality and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
A fucked up individual, but we got the same hobby.
I like my smut too, Nanny.
I get it.
I like
I
my
get
smut
it.
too.
So, yeah, he wasn't a cheater. He wasn't abusive. He was very financially abusive, and disapproved of her romance novels.
Mm-hmm.
So one day he was just like, "Hey, you're gonna obey me. You're gonna stop reading this stuff. You don't get any money. Blah blah blah." So Nanny was like, "Okay, fuck you," and, like, dipped out for a little bit. And so I guess Samuel, like, phones her up, emails. I don't fucking know. It's just like, "I miss you. Come back." She's like, "Give me all the bank account information." So he's like, "Okay, here." Huge mistake, clearly. It always is for everybody in her life. She takes out a fucking life insurance policy again.
Mm-hmm.
Which, is there not some type of system?
We're probably in, like, the 50s at this point. Probably not.
We are in the 50s. Good job. Good job, Bailey.
I pay attention.
Samuel falls ill from
Mhm.
eating laced prune cake that Nanny had given him.
Yummy.
Shortly after, she gets all this information about the bank and all that stuff. But what's crazy, he survives.
Ah, plot twist.
I know, Sammy Sam. So, Samuel is taken to the hospital. So, it kind of weirds me out because nobody really talks about him surviving and then going to the hospital. Like, did he survive and then Nanny take him to the hospital? Or did he survive and
Was like,
phoned a friend?
I
Like,
gotta go.
yeah. Or took himself? I really have no idea.
911.
Yeah. So he's treated at the hospital for about a month because it fucked him up that bad.
Hell yeah.
And before he's released, his doctor was kind of sketched out and was like, there's foul play somewhere in here.
Mm-hmm.
And was just like, something's going on, but I don't really have any proof. So I'm just going to tuck it away and whatever.
Yeah.
Keep the information in the back of my head. See something, say something. I'm just going to say that. See something, say something. Hear something, feel something, say something. So, yeah, after like a day or two
Mm-hmm.
of Samuel being home, he dies mysteriously.
For good this time.
For good this time.
Okay.
So the doctor is like, what the fuck? Like, he was just fine. Like, he was in my care, whatever. And goes to Nanny and was like, hey, I want to do an autopsy. But does it to where he's like in front of people. So people, like, if.
He's got like a witness.
Yeah. And if Nanny says no, that witness is gonna
lying,
be like,
bitch.
yeah, and gonna be like, well, why wouldn't you want to help other people?
Yeah.
If it's mysterious and we're trying to figure it out, whatever. So Nanny actually agrees to do the autopsy.
Shocker.
So during the autopsy, they found an insane amount of arsenic in his system. Like, enough to kill a fucking horse. Like, literally enough to kill a horse.
He was a big guy.
No, he's a little guy. So obviously and thankfully, the autopsy tech reported it to the police.
Mm-hmm.
So she's finally fucking arrested. Cue the claps. Yay! She's arrested, and what's insane is that she is actually extremely cooperative with the police. Like, there's literally pictures of her laughing and smiling when she's talking to the police. You look her up, it's like pictures of her being like, yeah, I killed all four of my husband.
What I did?
Yeah, exactly.
Let me tell you my recipe for that pie. I know Jeannie isn't treating you like shit.
Prune pie. Yeah, she just happy-go-lucky, like, she didn't just kill a whole bunch of fucking people, and they actually gave her the nickname Giggling Granny. She's so old, and she's just like, I killed my husband. Like, it's
Giggling Granny.
Giggling Granny.
I know that name.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know her origin story.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm. This is her. She's fucking psychotic. She just wants money, man.
Don't we
Go
all?
play the fucking lottery. I don't know if they had the lottery back then.
Probably not.
Probably not. Go sell a cow. I don't fucking know. She only admits to killing her husbands. She doesn't say anything about, or like one or two of the husbands. She doesn't say anything about the family members.
That she most definitely killed.
Yeah. And so they had a hunch, and they were like, well, we're going to exhume the bodies. They exhumed them and found also crazy amount of arsenics in those victims that we just read about. So they were able to pin all of those on her as well. But they suspect about 12 deaths under her belt.
She was staying busy.
Well, my thing is, like, what was she doing when she was gone? When she left?
Just for a while?
Yeah. Did she kill people back then too?
She had to have been. Because she was itching for it.
Or like those 16 years?
Yeah, where she
did nothing?
Supposedly. But I want to know, like, where are you getting this amount
of arsenic?
Like, you're not just going
and
to
nobody's saying anything.
Grocery store and buying all that. Ain't no way.
It had to have been, like, readily available back then. We really should do our research or something. I don't know. It's like it's a job or something we have to do. Who knows? So she's found guilty of murder here in Oklahoma, as well as in North Carolina, Kansas, and Alabama. Though she was never tried outside the state of Oklahoma, which is kind of weird, but I think it was because she was so old they didn't really care, which sucks for the other families and victims. So she actually faced the death penalty and was going to be the first woman in the state of Oklahoma to die by the electric chair.
Damn.
But then the judge was like, she's old. And she's a woman. I don't really want to do that to her. She just fucking killed like
fair
12 people!
Fair punishment, dude.
And so they just declared her insane. And was just like, oh yeah, she's crazy. So just put her in
put her in a padded cell.
Yeah, literally. So I guess only one good thing kind of came out of this whole thing. There was actually a bill that was passed here in the States where if somebody dies mysteriously without a medical professional or law enforcement present, it has to be investigated. It's pretty neat.
Good.
Or like if like somebody like didn't, like if I dropped dead right now, I would have to be autopsied. So in June of 1965, Nanny passed away from leukemia and was buried in Oak Hill Memorial Park in McAlester, Oklahoma.
Karma's a bitch.
Mm-hmm. And Nanny really never gave any other motives other than, oh, well.
They're bothering me.
Yeah. My husband just, he wasn't like my books.
He wasn't treating me right.
No. He didn't. He wasn't have you read Accutar yet?
No.
Oh, never mind. I was going to make a reference, but.
Accutar?
Yeah.
Okay. You said Accutar, like you're talking like Accutane.
You know, I was picturing Accutane in my head when I said Accutar.
I love that.
So yeah, that was the story of Nanny Doss. It was a long one. It was a repetitive one.
Giggling Granny.
But that was the Giggling Granny.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok under Gossip Yard.
Can you tell we've been here for 10 hours?
My brain itches.
So yeah, that was the story of Nanny Doss.
That Giggling Granny.
The Giggling Granny. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
You can follow us for updates on Instagram, and don't forget to check out the Spotify. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Stay safe.